for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Monica Bachchan. I'm a founder of Metalogic Projects Management Services. We call it a maximum women staff organization. That is because our 80% staff are women working for steel and mining industries events. Today on 25th March 2021, we are presenting you webinar on Indian Stainless Steel, are we ready for the next growth cycle? In association with Indian Stainless Steel Development Association of India, webinar sponsored by Jindal Stainless Limited. This is our 30th webinar during COVID-19 pandemic. I hope you have gained an insight from our last webinar on building material for sustainable construction held on 26th of February. The recording of that webinar is available on Metalogic PMS YouTube channel. Do not miss to subscribe to Metalogic PMS YouTube for steel and mining related videos. This webinar is currently live on youtube.com/metallogicpms. In case you find any difficulty from GoToWebinar softwares, you can watch the live version on our channel. Viewers, I'd like to make an announcement that Metalogic is coming up with a new portal, mymetalogic.com, which is all webinars have been documented and converted into a report, which you can easily find on mymetalogic.com. Do not miss to subscribe. Just a short housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the panel discussion, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. I'll bring them up during the presentation, and we will also have the time for questions at the end. Always mention your company name and organization which you are representing and who would you like to address your question to. Before we start, I would like to give a brief about the session to you all. The Indian stainless steel crude production has been rising, especially since 1990, when CRMN steel production started to take off. The development of CRMN steel in India was triggered by high nickel prices and a lack of domestic availability. Producers of household utensils were searching for a low-cost alternative to make stainless steel affordable for the mass market. Today, the demand for sustainable stainless steel in India is pegged around 3.5 to 3.8 million tons and projected to grow to 4.5 million tons by 2024 and close to 7 million tons by 2031. There is a good focus on increasing the share of stainless steel coaches in the railway rolling stock in line with countries like USA, Canada, Brazil, Japan, and Australia. Currently, Indian coach manufacturing units still opt for cotton steel coaches despite the proven benefit of stainless steel coaches, which can offer a higher useful life, reduction in weight by 20 to 25%, lower maintenance cost, and a better corrosion resistance compared to carbon steel due to higher chromium content. Similarly, stainless steel is making a big way into architecture, building and construction, along with its traditional cookware and durable segment. The long-term perspective for India remain positive. India has been increasingly shifting focus from volume to value-based production in the past few years. Considering additional life cycle cost and environmental aspects, stainless is the preferred material for nearly all user segments, which include household goods, commercial kitchens, sinks, panel, architecture, dishwasher, cutlery and processing equipments, and now rural as well. Recently, the sector was baffled by a series of blows in the form of imposition of anti-dumping and CVD duties, removal of basic custom duty on imports, and other, which the expert panelists will take up shortly. Our expert panelists today are Mr. Karan Pahuja, President of Indian Stainless Steel Development Association, our keynote speaker, Dr. Vijay Kumar Saraswat, Member Niti Aayog, Srimati Varsha Joshi, IAS, Joint Secretary, CDD, Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Mr. Anant Kumar, Special Director General at CPWD, Mr. Vijay Sharma, Director at Jindal Stainless Limited, Mr. SLM Rao, CGM Marketing at Steel Authority of India, Salem, Mr. Rohit Kumar, Executive Director of Indian Stainless Steel Development Association, and I'm your moderator. To start with, I would like to welcome Mr. Karan Pahuja, and President of ISDA, to please open the session and set the theme of the event. I would like to welcome you, sir, and I request you to please unmute your mic. Karan, sir.
Thank you, Monica, and good afternoon. Respected Dr. Saraswat, Member Niti Aayog, Shri Anand Kumar, Special DG CPWD, Madam Varsha Joshi, JS Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairy, my industry colleagues, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Indian Stainless Steel Development Association, I welcome you to this webinar on stainless steel in association with Metallurgic Project Management Services, focusing on the growth aspects. The present situation in the steel industry reminds me of the year 2001-2, which many old-timers of my time might remember, when steel demand started rising rapidly and took everyone by surprise. And it continued a scorching pace of growth for next 5 to 6 years. I feel that we are at a similar cusp of high growth period, leaving behind the bad memories of last year. A combination of structural policy reforms, newer applications of stainless steel, and cyclical revival factors are playing out before us in the stainless steel industry. Monica mentioned about railway coaches. Let me add here that railway decided sometimes in 2017 not to make any carbon steel coaches and shifted to 100% stainless steel coaches in all the 3 coach factories. Now, if I may do a bit of crystal gazing for the future, some of the thoughts come to my mind, and I thought I'll share some of them with you. We wonder how will the agriculture sector change in the light of the government aim of increasing farm income in areas like food storage, dairying, fisheries, sugar mills, etc. Another point is, shall we adopt better construction materials to build more sustainable and low maintenance infrastructure which can last over 100 years? Will India become a healthcare hub and a pharmacy to the world? How will the opening of defense and aerospace sector spur the demand for superior materials and alloys? What will be the scenario with more of renewable energy and electric vehicles? Whether moving towards a hydrogen-based energy systems will generate demand for more cryogenic materials. Now, we still ponder over these questions and we don't have all the answers today. But the direction is very clear, and so is the government priorities. So we are absolutely clear that stainless steel demand will accelerate both in the traditional and in the non-traditional usages. In this context only, we have organized this webinar to listen to policymakers and end users on how they see their requirements in future, so that stainless steel industry can position itself accordingly to service those requirements. We also appeal to the policymakers for encouraging Make in India and being vocal for local, so that the benefit of this rising demand is available to domestic industry and not to some of the countries known for their unfair trade practices. With these opening remarks, I welcome you again and hope for a very enriching session with the learned speakers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karan sir. Just give me a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have our keynote speaker of the session, Dr. Vijay Kumar Saraswat, to share his insight about the industry. Let me inform you, viewers, Dr. Vijay Saraswat is a Padma Shri in 1998 and Padma Bhushan of 2013. He has been conferred honorary doctorate by more than 25 universities, and he's a great scientist, and having so many achievements, he's the humblest man you would ever come across. We would like to welcome you, Dr. Saraswat, with a great pleasure, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much for brief introduction. I'm so happy that you made it short. I'm very happy to hear that there has been significant amount of work done by your platform on this particular aspect of stainless steel. And what the president of the association said, the future is very bright as far as this material is concerned. Because over the last few decades, SS has emerged as one of the metal of choice in both ABC sector, ART sector, aerospace, defense, and all that. This has been, it has actually taken a march over the carbon steel, because you saw that the growth of steel over in the between about 2013-19, stainless steel grew at about 7.2% CAGR, whereas the carbon steel was only 5%. That shows that there has been a shift as far as utilization of SS is concerned, because of the various reasons, because it has got high ductility, strength, longer average product life cycle, relatively low maintenance cost, and so many advantages are there. Let's look at the Indian landscape. Where do we stand with respect to the global scenario? If you see, India is the world's second largest consumer of SS steel after China. In 2010, the per capita consumption was 1.2. In 2019, the figure stands about 2.5. Of course, we are still down much below the average, global average, which is about 5.7. But we have seen almost registering a rise of 100% during this period. So that means there is a tremendous growth which is taking place. And we have seen in as I think Monica was mentioning, 2013 we were about 2.4 million tons, and now we are about 3.7 million tons, registering a CAGR of as much as 7.2%. So we have a healthy demand from variety of sectors like architecture, building, construction, automobile, railways, domestic stainless steel demand. I'm quite certain it's supposed to rise. And what the president of the association mentioned, I think there is a tremendous possibility in terms of the new technologies that are emerging, and which will demand more and more usage of corrosion-free, good material with long life and so on, and stainless steel will product certainly be the material of choice. Now, if you see our present situation, we have been importing SS products in 2019-20 to the tune of 1.43 billion. And our export of same thing has been in the same period is about 1.73 billion. And even in this year, despite the pandemic, I think up to January 21, we have imported about $728 million worth of stainless steel, and exported about 1.22 billion. That means we are maintaining a healthy trend as far as the system is concerned. Globally also, the stainless steel, if you look at it, between it has grown from 38.5 million tons in 2013 to about 52.2 million tons in about 2019. That means there is a shift, which is a growth with about CAGR of 5.2 taking place globally also. Of course, we are seeing that the largest consumer of stainless steel are the consumer goods, and India certainly is that. Then next comes the process industry, then the ART, then the ABC. So this kind of a thing is happening. And as far as the manufacturing is concerned, industry-wise, I'm very happy to note that JSL Group has leadership position in the SS sector, cumulatively accounting to almost 50% share in the overall SS demand. We have, of course, international players of repute like Hibis Group, Outlook Group, POSCO, and so on. And they have been doing incremental spending between 2020-24 is expected to be almost about $27 billion. Expected growth rate in the international market is almost 4.99%. So there's a major thing which is happening. But then there are issues with the market, both in terms of the negotiation levels for buying, both in terms of market price trends, and whatever the pricing models which are also dictating the market, like the spot pricing, value-based pricing. Well, all these things are major important issues which any industry has to take into account if it has to look into the future for the SS. As far as the utilization is concerned, as Monica was mentioning, and I think it is well known, the utilization both in the sector like industry sector, effluent and water treatment system, this is what is going to happen in a big way. The ABC, of course, is increasing because our infrastructure projects are becoming more and more electronic and electromechanical, like washing machines, consumer goods, oil and gas, refineries, petrochemicals, process industries, more and more fertilizer plants, chemicals, dairy equipment, agriculture implements, food processing, mining equipment. I think there's a huge amount of which is coming. And then with this hydrogen economy, as mentioned, there's going to be a shift for both pipelines as well as for cryogenic equipment. You are going to need more of the stainless steel. Engineering industry is going to demand much more in terms of valves, compressors, welding wires, fasteners, and so on. And metal goods, all of you know, we are switching to stainless steel for almost everything in the kitchen, household, lifestyle products, everywhere. And medical equipment is becoming a major driver now, where surgical instruments, hospital furniture, all this will be, and India is pitching really well in this area, becoming more and more self-reliant. So the utilization of assets will be on demand. But there is business environment as far as industry is concerned. If you look at it, there is a supply side problem where you have an overcapacity in China and ongoing substantial global oversupply situation. And there is another thing which is happening is the rise of integrated manufacturers from mining of nickels to final products. This is what is, so increasing giant manufacturers are going to emerge. As far as the demand is concerned, there is a protectionism in US, European Union and Asia, and generation of new demand and shrinkage of existing demand caused by industrial structure change. So there's a need for integration of stainless steel sheet business completely. That's the kind of thing which is emerging. There are many issues which are affecting the industry today also. One of them is the cheap imports from China and other countries acting as a threat to the growth of Indian industry. While the country's future growth prospects are bright, certain key issues are hindering the realization of its true potential, particularly the non-availability of nickel in the country and volatility in the nickel price in the international market, lack of indigenous melting scrap, and increasing competition and shrinking margins in India. These are some of the impediments. And current capacity utilization of both flat and long product producers is quite low due to large domestic capacity. And we have also issues with respect to some policies like positioning of SS, HR and CR in the free trade agreement. There are issues with respect to the rule of origin, China routing the products to the FTA countries into our country. And there are various issues with respect to dumping, and which are being discussed even today. While we took some actions in the past, but there are still, for example, in the past we did, some measures government of India took, like in 2015, they imposed anti-dumping duty of about 180 to 316 dollars per metric ton on imports of 304 grade flat products from China, Malaysia, and South Korea. However, importers commented and they put anti-dumping duty by importing products of goods different from those mentioned in the duty order. So we had to correct that. Then imposition of steel quality order of 2016 was given so that you can get the steel of BIS certification. Then we also put imposition of countervailing duty against import from China to the tune of 18.95% on for the next 5 years till about September 22 decided. These things have helped, but I think still there are certain issues like country of origin and so on. Now, stainless steel you should see now, because we are also talking of green steel manufacturing. We are also talking of sustainability. Future will demand that not only we produce, but I think we need to have more and more sustainability and environmental protection. Fortunately, stainless steel is a fantastically green material because it is 100% recyclable. More than half of all the SS materials they are using today have been sourced from scrap materials. Its production does not produce toxic runoff. Stainless steel is the ultimate green raw material that can enhance the fight against the climate change agenda. To give you a figure, 3.3 tons of carbon dioxide is generated when you produce 1 ton of stainless steel, which does not include, of course, the carbon dioxide which is generated when the nickel is produced. And if you include that, I think this number will go up. The other impacts of SS on raw material, water and energy, for example, raw materials today, because we are using a lot of scrap, 100% recyclable, so its impact is less. Alloying element, nickel and chromium, which are mined and refined under the environmental considerations, they are completely controlled by the rules and regulations, so they don't. Energy, we find that most of us are using electric furnaces with advanced computer controls that ensures efficiency in electricity, so that has the slag which is produced is being used for a variety of.
Is anyone able to hear Dr. Saraswat? Dr. Saraswat.
Not audible now.
Sir, Dr. Saraswat, we are not able to hear you, sir. Dr. Saraswat is trying to connect back. Dr. Saraswat, are you able to hear me? All right. Meanwhile, Dr. Saraswat is trying to reconnect. We will move on to our next. Dr. Saraswat, you're there? So we will move on to our next panelist, and the moment Dr. Saraswat will join us, we will have him back. Going further, we have our next panelist, Madam Varsha Jyoti, Joint Secretary, CDD, Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying. Madam, I personally feel delighted to have a lady panelist in my session, because in steel and mining industry, we do not have many ladies, unfortunately. But yes, fortunately, in Ministry of Steel, we have two leading ladies as our additional secretary and joint secretary, and we feel really proud of them. Ma'am, over to you, ma'am. I welcome you for the session. And you can unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Monica, for having me. I look after cattle and dairying in the Ministry of Animal Husbandry and Dairying. Steel is a permanent, and stainless steel especially is a ready partner for dairy and dairy infrastructure. So I'd like to give a very brief presentation. Ma'am,
I'm making you a presenter. Just keep your presentation open on the screen. So you will see a message on your screen to share my screen. So
yeah, you can see that.
Yeah.
So
yes, you can put it on. It is visible, and you can put it on slideshow mode.
Yeah. Here it is. Is it now visible?
Ma'am, you can put it on slideshow mode.
Oh, just a second.
It's on your bottom right. I can see the icon.
Is it happening? Yeah. I hope
yes.
It's now.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. It is visible.
So the dairy sector is an essential part of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and the overall purpose of increasing farmers' income and doubling farmers' income, actually, because dairy is a sector in which something like 10 crore farmers are involved. Actually, that's the entire livestock sector. Majority of it is in dairy. So even though they're all very small farmers, but together they're able to produce nearly 200 million tons of milk in a year, which is our latest figures, and we are the largest milk producer in the world. As you know, ever since the cooperative movement was started by Dr. Kurian, the sector has grown by leaps and bounds, and the entire value chain of dairy, starting from the milk cooling point, from the milk can really, in which the farmer brings the milk to the milk cooling point, to the bulk milk cooler, and all the way till the chilling plant and the processing plant. We have stainless steel as our partner on the way. So these are some of the uses that we have for steel in the dairy industry. The reasons why for steel is preferred for dairy, they are obvious. This is the most corrosion resistant and hygienic substance available for the purpose, and the technology lasts for several years. Even now, there's huge scope in this sector, because we have something like half of the entire milk which is coming into the marketable surplus and is going into the industry is still in the unorganized sector. So that entire sector is still there, in which processing and infrastructure building is yet to happen. And the key to that is creating the cooperative or the producer company structure in which the organized sector can flow its milk, and that is something the ministry is dedicated to doing. So these are some of the use cases for steel. When we're talking about SS 304 or 316, we have milk collection accessories, like I mentioned, the can, the bigger tanker, the bulk milk cooler. We have the road tanker barrels, and then within the plant, we have almost all the structures within the plant are going to be stainless steel, really. We also have the rest of the factory, other than the actual milk plant, is consumer of mild steel. And all of you are aware of this, so I need not go into it in great detail. Specifically, Codex recommends stainless steel as a preferred material for storage of food and transportation. And the BIS has standards for the use of stainless steel for milk cans and in fact for every article that is used in the whole milk sector. And the import is regulated through the Steel Import Monitoring System, where compulsory registration is required. And only bulk steel products are allowed, a minimum of 50 to 100 ton. So the registration fee levied here is a bit of a hindrance because it is as a percentage of the import quantity. That is something that can be collectively looked at. And these are some specific numbers on how much stainless steel is required for our various use cases. Mainly at the village level, we have the bulk milk coolers, which go up to in fact, even 500 liter ones, 500 liter, 1 kiloliter, all the way up to 10 kiloliters. So this is the kind of steam usage that these structures require. And a full dairy plant of 100 KL is going to be taking up to 160 tons of stainless steel. So we have several important schemes in which the dairy infrastructure is being given a boost. The ministry has been traditionally concentrating on helping up the cooperative sector really. So most of our funding was going mainly to fund the state milk federations, the various milk unions and generally bodies in the cooperative sector. So under this, we had the National Dairy Plan earlier, which is now closed. Its second phase is going to start soon. Right now, we have a scheme called the National Program for Dairy Development, in which a subsidy is given for creation of this planted material for the milk federations and other cooperative bodies. And there is also a scheme called the DIDF as a Dairy Infrastructure Development Fund, in which interest subvention is given on loans for creating infrastructure. So this is all going into the cooperative sector really. So the ministry was not giving any particular over and above benefits to private sector investment in dairy or livestock. So that has changed only this time because it's part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat package. We have the Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund, the AHIDF, which is a 15,000 crore fund in which interest subvention of 3% is given on any infrastructure project. So this is a huge opportunity for the private sector to augment its entire capacity. And the scheme is routed through the Udyami Mitra portal of the SIDBI, and anyone who's interested in investing is very warmly welcomed and encouraged to look at it and explore the possibilities of enhancing their capacity under this scheme. These are again some more numbers about how much steel is used for each level, and the numbers we are likely to be having in the near future, because the overall aim of the department is to more or less double the available processing infrastructure in the next 5 years. So as this table shows you, it's something like 3.5 lakh tons of steel are likely to be used in this sector between 2021 and 2025. So, sorry.
Thank you so much, Varsha ma'am. Just give me a moment. Viewers, now we are back with Dr. Saraswat. We have Saraswat sir. We were waiting for you, so you can now unmute your mic and complete your deliberations.
Sorry for loss of signal. We had an internet problem here, so we lost you. I'm so sorry for the interruption kind of thing. Yeah, we were talking about applications. We were talking about sustainability and availability of the raw materials. I was talking to you that niobium, molybdenum, vanadium, and cobalt cannot substitute significantly for nickel in SS steel in large amounts. Nickel has an annual primary production of more than 2.5 million tons per year, whereas niobium, molybdenum, vanadium, and cobalt are produced in smaller amounts. So recycling, it becomes a very major requirement. And if we do 80% of the recycling, the supply of nickel, chromium, and manganese will be sufficient for many, many centuries. That is the future I'm looking at. The industry should also look at now for getting ready for the future and improving efficiency to enter into the digital revolution phase. And that is where these technologies will be changing the world and dramatically improving the way the organizations and the people operate. Steel and metal manufacturers face a huge opportunity to transform their operational model by implementing digital technologies. Both in terms of operational efficiency, customer service, inventory levels, and profit margins. Now, capturing these benefits does not require full IT transformation. In fact, companies can quickly capitalize on new technologies like predictive analytics, through data analysis, through agile pilot tests, begin generating results in months or even weeks. That will help them. And you can see, look at digital data, automation, connectivity, and digital customer access. These are crucial for effective implementation of the digital processes. I think for future-ready industry, they have to enter into that. There are some positive trends which are there in India today. Like the rest of the developing world, India is consuming and producing growing amounts of SS. Much of India's production relies on imported nickel-bearing scrap, a situation that is likely to stay in place even as the country collects more of its own scrap. Actually, we have a major problem. Our scrap collection efficiency is not that good. So we are depending upon imported scrap also. So India's total consumption of nickel units to produce new metal pales in comparison to China. But India's producers use a much higher percentage of the scrap. 2015 to 18, China's stainless steel producers just used 22.3% scrap as a feedstock, where India used 77%. That is a kind of comparison. So more stainless steel than ever we are producing, and that is the way we are going to go up to about 50 million tons in 2018-19 to 2022. Now, there are 5 steps which can be done for competitive global trade. This is my recommendation. If we have to be ready for competitive global trade, then we have to improve the effectiveness of management and the operational decisions. We have to also improve the raw material quality. We have to also do what is called process maintenance and reliability. That has to be ensured. And process yield improvement has to be done. And most important thing that is required is energy saving technologies have to be implemented in the industry to remain competitive in the global trade. Future strategy for global trade is switch over to increase the share of 400 series SS, which contains negligible quantity of nickel. In fact, I think JSPL is already having this kind of a strategy. This would reduce raw material volatility and lend stability to the overall margins. Increase the share of value-added products in the overall product mix. I think this is very important. I think this is one area where JSPL has taken a lead over others. Increase production of aerospace and defense quality SS in special forms like seamless pipes, extrusions, forgings, and other special steels like 304L, 316L, 420, and so on. I will give you a small story. When I was doing a rocket engine, I wanted to get cold roll annealed 304L or 316 steel in the country. And this was 1999-2000 story. And I had problems. And whatever we were getting from indigenous manufacturing, the quality-wise, it was not meeting the aerospace standards. And finally, I had to resort to import. Now, this situation should not come because we have all the ingredients to do this work for the future. To conclude, evaluating the current economic indicators and the government's resolve for Atmanirbhar Bharat, it is expected that 2021 domestic demand for SS will continue to outpace the global average growth rate. SS prices are linked to raw material prices. Among several other indicators, these prices point to recovering market. Recent global trends for the metals industry have shown a spurt in the prices of key inputs. There has been an increase in the cost of almost all basic raw materials which go into making quality SS, such as nickel, molybdenum, SS, scrap, etc. Evolution of the Indian SS demand over the last decade has witnessed a significant change from humble beginnings in the unorganized utensil segment to quintessential economic fronts like nuclear, defense, ABC, ART, and energy generation applications. SS industry showed a resilient recovery post the peak COVID-19 period in 2020. The quick domestic recovery may be attributed to the government's encouraging policies for the market and India's consistent fight against COVID-19. As for 21, I see several positive factors will play out. A further reopening of the markets and the hope of an enhanced vaccination drive across the world will reinstill confidence in the global trade. SS is used in diverse end-use sectors across a spectrum of applications. So the growth is imminent. Infrastructure is picking up in all sectors. SS is a green material. SS is the material which is needed for now more and more applications. A growth of 7.2% CAGR or 8% CAGR. If it has to be done, I think the industry has to change its paddle to a much higher level of productivity, higher level of quality, and higher level of energy savings so that we become cost effective. What is needed is an approach where you can recycle more and more the domestic scrap so that even the import of the scrap can be avoided, and we should be able to export much more than what we are doing today. I think industry like JSPL and others have to really make use of this opportunity. I see a very bright future, and I think we are ready, but some more work has to be done for us to become more and more competitive, both in terms of value-added products and in terms of higher domestic utilization of our resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saraswat. It is always a pleasure to have you in our program, and thank you so much for sharing your valuable inputs. Those were really thought-provoking, and I hope the industry will take your inputs in improvising the product quality and bringing a product mix. With this, we have our next panelist, Mr. Anant Kumar, Special Director General of Central Public Works Department of India, which we know as CPWD. Before SDG, Anantji was working as Additional Director General Technical in Delhi, and recently, last October 2020, he got promoted as Special DG. First of all, sir, many congratulations for your promotion, and now it is over to you, sir. We welcome you. Please unmute your mic.
Sir. I am working for CPWD. CPWD is mostly the building organization for the country. So when I was additional DG, I participated in one of your programs in Delhi, probably last year, as you mentioned. So I was responsible for making the technical specification. As you know, the CPWD specification and Delhi this schedule of rates are used all over country by various organizations, even for public sectors. So it is very important for others that these items are included, SS items are included in CPWD schedule of rates so that it is easier for others to use them. So for selecting any material, what is my requirement is that whether it is durable, it is cost effective, it is aesthetically appealing, easily available, it is comfortable. And as mentioned by Dr. Saraswat, it is green material because nowadays most of emphasis on the green building. And to me, it should be theft resistant because if I use brass handles and brass tower boards, they are very theft prone, particularly in our environment. So all these items, probably stainless steel fits the bill in all the requirement. I remember 15 years back, probably we were the first to use the stainless steel railing in Constitution color when it was renovated. But now stainless steel railing are being used extensively in all our buildings. But still I find some problems that somewhere even after using 304 railing in the open, some rust marks are seen. I don't know whether it is due to lack of workmanship or due to quality issue, that I am not sure, but if you find rust mark even after using 304, then the confidence you lose in that why it is like this. I would like the other panelists who are expert on this to throw some light why this, how to avoid this. And what CPWD specification we have in our schedule of rates, we have stainless steel material for this stone cladding. Earlier we were using clamps, gunmetal clamps for fixing the stone. Now we are using SS clamps. Or wherever we are using the clamps, we are using the SS clamps. Stainless steel wire, as a hinges we are using. Then railing, wash basins, kitchen sinks. But still we are not using much this SS pipe for the bathrooms. But I think it will repay the cost if we start using the SS pipe for the bathrooms, because GI pipe or any other pipe won't last for more than 10 to 15 years. And after 10 years, you need the bathroom renovation, complete dismantling. Apart from cost, it causes a lot of inconvenience to the user. So we have started using now SS pipes for the bathrooms, and in prestigious buildings like AIIMS, Jammu I am using, or in some other buildings we have started using the stainless steel pipe for the, particularly for the sanitary fittings. But still I find that there are many items which are not included in our DSRs even now, like tower bolt. We are having brass tower bolt, oxidized tower bolt, anodized aluminum, but there is no tower bolt as far as the SS is concerned. Similarly, in the case with handles, similar case with multi-slope, similar case with gratings, similar case with stoppers. So I would request the industry persons to please give me the specification and the rates for these items, so that I can push over to get these items included in our schedule of rates for this easy usability at the user's end. Like the other use, we have started using this SS for the security doors also. At the main entrance, you are using security door. Now it is better to use stainless steel, as it is maintenance free and it gives good aesthetics. Similar use for other SS items can be like the facade and the pillar cladding, and still we are not using the pipes, SS pipe for the sewage use. We are using only the CI pipes and the PVC pipes. Whether industry can provide some guidelines for using these pipes for the sanitary usage also. It is still not being used. And regarding the stainless steel rebars, the cost becomes the provision, because it will increase the cost 8 to 10% if we use SS bars. And moreover, still there is no code, IS code for using SS bars for the buildings. Whether we can develop this code if the SS bars are used, although it may be costly, but the cover required will be less. So if their calculations are made, probably it may offset the extra cost. And particularly in the coastal areas where the problem of rusting is very much, we can use stainless steel rebars for the buildings. And earlier working for NDMC, New Delhi Municipal Corporation, we have used SS public toilets supplied by the Jindal Steel, and it was very much appreciated. Similarly, for water tanker also, instead of MS, NDMC procured these SS water tankers for the use. So there are so many things which we can do in stainless steel, which is cost effective and durable and long last, that cost effective in long run and aesthetically also. But some, as mentioned, as these points are to be taken further, so that we can incorporate and educate the users to switch over from GI pipes to SS pipes, in particularly in sanitary fittings or in the other sanitary requirements. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for highlighting what requirements you are having from CPW point of view, and I hope the stainless steel industry is making a note of it. With this, viewers, we have our next panelist, Mr. Vijay Sharma, Director at Jindal Stainless Limited, to give a view on how sustainable stainless steel is and what opportunities an industry can seek and opt. Mr. Vijay Sharma, I'd like to welcome you, and it's over to you, sir.
Adani Dr. Sarvatra sir, Shrimati Joshi ji, Shri Anand Kumar ji, it was great hearing you, and pranam and namaskar to you, to other panelists and the audience. Dr. Saab, it was always great hearing you. It's a great learning, and in fact, when you spoke, it looked like the greatest spokesman of the industry speaking instead of a very great bureaucrat. Sir, industry and me, we are bigger fan of you. Now onwards. Monica, today's topic is very, very appropriate. It is the right time. Well, Dr. Saab has covered so many things which I would also supposed to share with you. So I will try to innovate during this time. Industry is at a very, very interesting juncture. Next growth cycle, it is very appropriate. I think we need to deliberate what exactly it is. We are very upbeat that the economic growth towards which India is poised, whether it is competitive Bharat, whether it is Atmanirbhar Bharat, or it is healthy, prosperous, and easy to live in Bharat. Ultimately, it is a strong nation with the sustainable solutions. When we talk about the sustainability, to me, metal is very essential, and different metals have their own place to ensure the sustainability for various long-term fixes for the nation. Sustainability. I will start with the biggest challenge, the corrosion. All of us understand the role of anti-corrosion of stainless steel. Just to sensitize more ourselves, there is about 5% GDP erosion because of corrosion every year. This innocent looking 5% means that every year at the world level, one Germany gets eroded. At US level, 2 Walmarts get eroded. At an India level, the India's largest corporate gets eroded. Union Carbide, perhaps that rupture would not have happened. 4,000 deaths instant, 8,000 in 2 weeks. So stainless steel fits into the right sustainability solution. And the best part is it moves along with GDP. Industry is not considering COVID to be of any reference. It was an unprecedented. We are very hopeful the way India's economy is poised at and the way it will grow. The 3 pillars of sustainability: social, environmental, and economic. Stainless steel appears to be the right metal. From social and people point of view, safety, impact resistance, crash resistance, fire resistance, inert, aesthetics. We talked about the coaches. Well, in fact, in a coach of 72, where more than 140 people are there, had there been non-LHB design, non-stainless coach, all of us know what would have happened. So thank you, government, for initiating the use of stainless steel in coaches. If we talk about environmental, doctors have talked about the very, very specific positives about stainless, whether low carbon footprints, low maintenance, reusable, recyclable, and it can withstand better calamities. Economic, from the profitability point of view, low life cycle cost, high resale value, higher life, and higher returns. So stainless is the right choice. However, we tend to get mixed it up with steel. So I would like to position stainless steel a little bit. Stainless is a smaller brother of steel. By volume, it is just 3%, but it is at the highest chain of the value addition. At a global aggregate level, in terms of value, it is about 12 to 15% depending on the mix. Very interestingly, per capita consumption of stainless steel is 1/3 of the world, same like steel, which is also 1/3 of the world. Very interestingly, stainless steel of India size is 7% of the world, and steel is also 7% of the world. And good that we are second largest, whether stainless steel or steel, and the growth of stainless steel is higher than the world, and of course, even higher than steel. So there is a huge opportunity. GDP is growing, opportunities are there, and the new emerging and the new applications, they are also giving big confidence to the stainless steel fraternity. There are 5 broad categories of the application. Automobile, railway, transport, about 13%. In addition to the current exhaust, coaches, wagons, the emerging are e-rickshaw, bus bodies. Even BS6 has brought in the opportunities for the better product mix, including the 400 series. Process industry, capital goods, about 30%. Emerging markets are meat processing, flat plates, flue gas, biogas, desalination plants, huge opportunities. ABC is a very, very interesting area. Somehow in building and construction, so far, stainless steel has got very, very limited usage, limited to aesthetics and certain decoratives of 12%. But going forward, whether it is the station development or it is the FOB or it is the ROB or the infrastructure around DFCs, they are going to bring in huge opportunities for stainless steel. Household and durables, they are big in numbers, 44%. Again, there are new opportunities, whether it is plumbing or it is water tanks. In fact, the single-use plastic ban, that will also create bigger opportunity for stainless steel. And then very special applications like point blank, like razor blade steel, those are the other applications. Indian domestic industry is at such a situation where to avail these opportunities, there are very positives also, and of course, there are certain challenges also. When I talk about positives, positive economic outlook, GDP in relation with stainless steel, government focus, make in India, Atmanirbhar. Positives, adequate capacity available in the country to the tune of about 50 lakh tons. However, it is underutilized to the tune of about 60%. We are proud to share that India is perhaps the country where the largest number of grades and variants are being produced anywhere in the world, more than 120 grades. And sir, just to share with you, in Jindal Stainless, more than 20% is ferritic, sir. All the wagons, all the coaches, exhaust, disc brakes, and new FOBs, they are now using ferritic. So, sir, industry has understood you, sir. We are following it. And yes, to have a stability in the prices, because ferritic doesn't have the nickel, which is not available in India, Indian manufacturers are also following it, sir. Indian manufacturers are, sir, supplied to all the segments, including the nuclear segment, including the blade steel, including the blanks. And also, sir, about 20% of Jindal Stainless supplies are in exports, out of which 50% goes to Europe, and out of which 50% goes to North Europe. That talks about the quality and practically in all the segments which I referred about, sir. Sir, when we talk about value-added steel, in terms of the general value addition, stainless steel in any case at the global average level is about 12 to 15% of the total steel value. However, if I try to bifurcate into two categories, one category 316L and below, and other category above 316L, which will have the grades like 317L, 309, 310S, super austenitics, duplex and things like that. Sir, in the last 4 years in India, from 35% share in these categories above 316L, today the share of Indian manufacturers in this category is more than 80%. So, sir, despite of the challenges of small stainless steel size, fragmented, MOQ challenges, domestic industry is trying to become Atmanirbhar in all these value-added products also. Sir, your message is very well understood, sir. There are different roles to be played. Foremost role is by the industry, and sir, absolutely rightly put up by you. The operational efficiency IR 4.0, that is the in thing. Sir, we are already into it. In fact, sir, our customers, a major chunk of customers, they don't have to place the orders on offline. They place it in the system based in SAP. When we put the orders in the system, we don't have to feed the price. The system picks it up. And we are into, sir, ML, IoT through SAP and AJ. Sir, we are taking it very seriously. We understand that without this participating in the digital revolution, the domestic industry cannot grow further, sir. Sir, there are certain challenges also, sir. The low awareness about stainless steel, the ecosystem needs to be built. Fabrication skills are at a very minimal level, sir. Initial high investment sometimes confuse the people. There is a great thing done by the Steel Ministry for the standards evolution and preparation, but again, a lot of work has to be done. And sir, one typical challenge which not the stainless steel industry, the total industry in India, because of the competitiveness of India, which is known to all of us, sir, just two cost elements, cost of capital and cost of logistics. Sir, they are making the Indian manufacturers uncompetitive by 10 to 12% because we have to compete with those players. And I will be talking about China, Indonesia a little later, sir. Sir, coming back to the commitment of the domestic industry, sir, in addition to the operational efficiency, the business development of ecosystem, skill development. Sir, just to give you a small example, Jindal Stainless has created a concept called Stainless Academy, wherein on one side we have got 4 vans. These are the moving institutes which move around the country. They have already trained more than 9,000 fabricators, roadside fabricators, so that they are able to handle the fabrication in a better way. We are partnering along with ISDA, with the PSUs also, whether it is railways, so that better handling of the stainless steel can happen, sir. Sir, we have tied up with 11 institutes, out of which 4 are IITs and IIM and architect colleges, where we have introduced the course of stainless steel so that the people at the right stage, they understand what is stainless and how it can contribute to the nation. Sir, we are committed, and sir, from government side, sir, first I would like to give a big thank to government, whether it is RCEP or it is NSP, SIMS, scrap policy, logistics policy, NIP, and standards and QCO. However, sir, industry needs a little more support, sir. Sir, you know the thing so well. So, I mean, frankly, मुझे ऐसा लगा सर कि आपके आगे तो कुछ कहने की आवश्यकता ही नहीं है. So, however, sir, industry needs a level playing field. I will be talking about Indian structure of the stainless steel industry in a while. Sir, there are challenges of investment, capital, and sir, little more help from the interministerial interfacing, sir. Sir, together we are committed to have more effective partnership, whether our association or our institutes and the industry. Sir, we want to do work with you for the LCC solution, sir, R&D, MSME focus, and upgrade standards, sir. We commit to that, sir. Sir, today one of the topics was rural. While overall there is a huge opportunity for stainless steel, rural it excites us a lot, sir. Despite of the fact that population being 70%, GDP 1/3, per capita being half of the urban, and urban in any case in India, unfortunately we are 142nd in the world, despite of being the 5th largest economy. But sir, roads are 70%, electrification is 100%. That gives us good confidence. And sir, in the 16 crore NIP ke andar se 25% getting allocated to rural, so there is a huge opportunity. And sir, some of the key applications for rural, what the industry feels is, in infra, it is a road network, railings, lighting, signages, FOB, etc., storage areas, silos, warehouses, transportation, farmlands, utilities, private space. So rural also gives us good opportunity, sir. So industry is very upbeat that stainless steel has a great future, huge opportunity. However, sir, we need to look at this situation not in isolation, but along with what is happening around us, around the world. Sir,
right,
world has been VUCA, but since 2018, whether USA 232, after the EU, after that, every country trying to impose ADD or CVD or everybody else. And in fact, sir, it happened because of the surplus excessive capacity in China, more than 40%, Indonesia, 25 times more capacity than the local consumption, and established that their government support them by way of 20 to 30% subsidies. And in fact, China was one of the first ones to impose ADD on Indonesia, as Indonesia also initiated that, sir. And it is true for all products. Sir, Indian stainless steel industry has a very, very typical structure. Out of 50 lakh tons, 1/3 supply side is under MSME. And sir, by MSME, the definition says they are small, they have got the challenge of automation, they have got the issues of the financial availability also. Sir, India is a soft target, sir. And somehow, sir, after post-COVID, recovery has started taking place, sir. Pent-up demand was there. Industry has done well in Q3. Q4 is also better, but the prices got increased. Sir, you know so well, nickel is not available in India. We are dependent on the import of scrap and things like that. Though the things are improving. The prices of Indian stainless steel are pegged against the raw material prices at the international level. And also, when the import intensity is 24%, sir, as compared to steel, which is 1/3 of this, even the prices are also internationally benchmarked. Sir,
Vijay, sir,
everything is good.
Sorry to interrupt,
everything
sir.
Is good. Just 2 minutes, please. Everything is good, sir. However, instead of industry being upbeat, industry is a little uncertain and a little baffled, sir. The budget is great, sir, and domestic industry is thankful for this removal of 2.5% duty on the scrap. Thanks for that, sir. But however, two specific decisions of withdrawing the CVD, which was imposed in 2017 on China, and withdrawing this interim CVD of Indonesia, sir, that has given a jolt to the industry. Investments are at stake, sir. Future investments are, we are really not very clear. The point here is, sir, we know what happens when the level playing field is created, but we also should know, sir, what will happen when the level playing field is not there, sir. So industry humbly, sir, is requesting, sir, let's have such decisions to be more in sync with the Make in India, melt to manufacture instead of the trade in India. And sir, we are very sure the next growth cycle is for stainless steel. We hope that and humbly submit that it should be available to the domestic stainless steel primary producer, sir. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Vijay sir, for your valuable insight and sharing your thoughts with all of us. Viewers, with this, we have our last panelist of the day, Mr. S.N.M. Rao, CGM Marketing, Steel Authority of India from Salem. Mr. Rao, I'd like to welcome you. Please unmute your mic, sir. Over to you.
Hi, hope I'm audible. Respected Dr. Saraswat sir, Varsha ma'am, Anand Kumar sir, Vijay sir, event organizers and enthusiastic participants. Good afternoon to all. First, let me thank ISDA in general and Vijay ji in particular and the organizers of this webinar for being concerned about the preparedness of stainless steel industry and a review of sales capability in meeting the market demands in India. Needless to say, all this is aligned with an emerging Atmanirbhar Bharat. The greater concern, however, is whether Bharat is ready to embrace mission Atmanirbhar. As you all may be aware, Salem Steel Plant was operationalized in 1981, 4 decades ago. We pioneered manufacturing 1250 mm with stainless steel in India. SSP is a model plant set up with contemporary technologies, equipment from leading steel technology experts from Japan, Germany, Italy, USA, Australia, etc. Over decades, SSP Collective developed admirable rolling facilities and best working practices in SS manufacturing, especially thinner gauges, across a gamut of stainless steel grades. Our material has earned wider acceptance across industry segments and earned patronage of customers with cutting-edge manufacturing facilities. Therefore, the question or challenge of are we ready for next growth cycle? On behalf of Salem Steel Plant, yes, I am here to assure the entire stainless steel fraternity present in this webinar as well as others who could not make it to this webinar that Salem Steel Plant, with its adaptive nature to continuously evolving opportunities and demands from stainless steel consumers, is always ready to ride the projected growth cycle by going hand in hand with stainless steel industry and consumers. The next categorical thing to share is the segment-specific focus of Salem Steel Plant. The focus sectors sailed to meet market demand are, as covered by others, mainly appliances segment, ART, that is auto, rail and transport, ABC segment, blade steel segment including surgical products, and last but not least, the emerging duplex steel and super duplex for pipes and tubes in petroleum industry. I would like to quickly take you through the efforts being put in by SAIL in these segments. First, let me start with appliances segment. The dynamics of COVID pandemic had led to a surge in demand for dishwashers and washing machines, particularly from household consumers. SAIL is continuously ramping up production of grades used in appliances segments and trying to meet all their requirements. Secondly, due to pandemic and the related public transport restrictions, need for personal transport became acute, thus a surge in demand for two-wheelers and four-wheelers. These vehicles are now emerging key drivers of economic aspirations of youthful Indian population. Further, implementation of BS6 emission control norms have made catalytic converters, pollution control related technologies mandatory in auto manufacturing. The stringent norms focus on efficient engine technology without compromising on clean burning fuels with equivalent performance and efficiency. The extensive use of SS for its outstanding properties of corrosion resistance, self-maintenance, recyclable nature, ease of fabrication makes it the obvious cost-effective choice considering its low life cycle cost. As you may be aware, we are already supplying different grades like SS 441, 439, 409L for auto exhaust assembly, SS 430, that is again 400 series grade for silencer grades, SS 410S CB for flanges, besides other SS grades for extensive use in manufacturing like expansion plugs, ignition lock sets, toolboxes, fuel tank caps, radiator caps, etc. Of course, this apart, SS in braking systems. For disc brakes, now the norm in two-wheelers in compliance with BS6 norms, making use of SS a non-compromise solution. It is also learned from this, one of the recent webinars I attended, that is held between steel industry and auto segment, that 410 dB, that is again 400 series, for disc brake system is being imported mainly due to supply shortage from indigenous manufacturers. From this forum, I would like to assure you that apart from existing suppliers in the market, SAIL is fully geared up to supply this grade, and there is absolutely no need for looking at imported sources of supply, which is another significant step towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, coming to next segment of ART, which is bus body building. You will appreciate that urbanization and traffic density has hugely scaled up bus travel as an alternate mode of transport for both interstate and intercity. The international norms with which Volvo, Benz, and other noted state road transport corporations are leading long-distance travel involving SS bus body building is yet another high-volume consumer, driving the demand in SS in India. What happened with SS in developed countries is taking shape in India as well. For bus body building, SAIL supplies against 430, 409, and low nickel SS ISN1 for frame, shells, inner panels, stitch panels, etc. Another major segment of subsegment of ART is railways, comprising of metro coaches, passenger coaches like LHB coaches, and wagons. Focusing on metro coach experience, as you are aware, cities and towns are major drivers of GDP of India. Due to rapid urbanization projects coming up, by around 2031, 40% of total population would be living in urban areas. Envisaging this, metro rail coaches are emergent answer to urban transportation. Metro projects have sprung up in Tier 1, Tier 2 cities. The usage of SS for such high-end application is gigantic. SSP has spearheaded development and supply of SS for majority of countries' metro projects, have played an active role in import substitution by developing special finishes for metro cars. Coming to railway coaches and wagons, SS was found an ideal alternative to cotton steel, the conventional fabrication material for railway wagons. After a trial run in late 90s with SS material and usage of modified ferritic SS 409M grade and other austenitic grades, the Indian Railways as a policy made stainless steel usage a norm for wagon and coaches, including high-speed LHB coaches. This apart, use of stainless steel in railway stations, bus stations, airports with escalators, travelators, foot-over bridges, handrails, security barricades, street furniture, etc. also find extensive use of stainless steel. Now, coming back to integrating our business with government missions, let's review Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, also the role SS can play here in future. SS is gradually finding acceptance and space from metros into remote villages and also along NHS, railway and bus stations, besides residential and commercial establishments. Watch these spaces. They are future drivers of stainless steel consumption. For instance, mobile sanitation facilities built around integrated public convenience, a solar plant for lighting, a SS water tank, bioengineered toilets, exclusive mobile sterile facilities for women, all forms part of sanitation drive. Note, sanitation is no longer a taboo subject with any stigmas attached. It's innovative engineering with creative designs coming up on the drawing boards everywhere, touching lives with stainless steel. Some SS designers have made innovative use of SS with their novel ideas due to the wide functionality, versatility of SS because of its aesthetic appeal in ABC segment. Post-COVID sanitizing has become a watchword. The proven material for this is again stainless steel in all its avatars, that is grades I mean. Literally making it a classic case of the proverbial opportunity in crisis or challenges. Now, another major application of SS is in cold and cryogenic applications like specially designed SS refrigeration vans, which are used for even transportation of COVID vaccine these days, cold room application, etc. It does not end here. SS is in space too. I'm talking about our famed ISRO missions, Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan. SSP supplied, the Salem Steel Plant supplied 304L for fabrication of oxidizer tanks for these spacecrafts. Now moving on to personal care and hygiene, we have the blade steel segment, including surgical products. This is one segment where, owing to the difficulties of manufacturing process, only very few suppliers are available in India. SAIL Salem Steel Plant, leveraging its expertise in metallurgy supported by in-house R&D team, successfully stabilized manufacturing of this grade and started bridging the gap between market demand and available capacities in India. Quickly moving on to another feature segment with a critical applications that covers the petroleum industry with the requirement of duplex SS. Again, duplex SS is produced only by few manufacturers in India and majority of its requirements are met through imports from European mills. SAIL Salem Steel Plant successfully stabilized manufacturing of duplex stainless steel and is supplying material with all relevant BIS certification. Further, with the government infrastructure projects in place, There is a tremendous impetus to the APC segment where 304, 441 grades are used for elevators, escalators, travelators are being supplied by SST. After hopefully convincing description of the extensive application of SS holding a promising future, I now wish to leave you all with some concluding observations. Atmanirbhar Bharat is a variant for national opportunity we need to rise up. Industry segments in SS have huge demands to fulfill. These volumes will drive growth in emerging SS applications in future. Extensive research besides ingenious designer applications of SS will take us from import substitution to 100% indigenization in future. Catering to conventional, niche and critical SS applications, SSP is doing all this. Emerging demand drivers will be duplex SS, super duplex and other alloys which will have critical applications with promise for volumes in future. We are geared up to cater to more complex grades of SS as new demand progresses. The future obviously is promising. It is for us to make it stainless as well. Wishing us a stainless future. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rao sir, and maintaining the time also. With this, we will start the panel discussion. We are receiving a lot of questions, and before I start to take questions one by one, I like to raise one poll questions from our audience. And audience, please be active. I'm launching a poll question on your screen. So the question is, what is the major hurdle for the stainless producers in the country? What is the major hurdle for the stainless producers in the country? You have four options. First is policy concerns hindering EODB. Second is rising imports. Third option is quality concerns. Or fourth option, high input cost. Please vote. And please be very, very quick. We will not be able to give you a long time to vote. So please, very, very quick. Please be very, very quick. What is the major hurdle for the stainless producers in the country? Policy concerns hindering EODB, or rising imports, or quality concerns, or high input cost. And people who are watching this program on YouTube can post their answers in the comment section of YouTube. What is the major hurdle? So we have the answers now. Answers on your screen. So 38% feel it is the rising import, which is the major hurdle of stainless steel producer. Whereas 44% of our audience also feel that high input cost is also one of the reasons. So high input cost and rising imports. Whereas 11% feels quality concern, whereas 8% feels policy concerns hindering EODB. So the major concerns are high input cost and rising imports. With this, I leave the session to our panelists to comment on this question and the response from our audience. You can all unmute yourself. We can start the comments from Dr. Saraswat sir. So just 1 second. Sir.
I think application-wise, I think whatever has been said by all the panelists, there's no doubt that we have tremendous application. The poll question clearly brings out two issues, and which I also talked in my talk. One is, of course, the input cost being very high because of the import of the nickel and import of some of the scrap material, which India is not able to muster from the domestic sources. Second one is also related to the when we are talking of rise in input costs as well as the other factor. What was that second factor you said for 38%?
Sir, input cost and rising imports. These were the two major
rising
concerns.
Imports. This rising import problem, I want to discuss this slightly with industry members present here. See, when this countervailing duty which has been put earlier and now it will it is getting removed and you have a problem. one point which came out during my discussions with the ministry members is that they found that once CVD was done, the prices of stainless steel in the domestic market went up, and that became at par with whatever was happening with the imported cost plus the CVD cost. Thereby, the advantage was not made available to the customer in overall. Now, this is called, I call it profiteering. I don't call it profit. I call it profiteering. If you continue like that, government will have to take some instruments into hand and thereby bring in some measures by which this profiteering aspect is removed. Otherwise, CVD will have to be removed because of bringing the, we have limitations, variety of problems are there. So this is one message I want to give to the industry, that if you really want to make use of these instruments by which we can reduce the import and dumping, I think you have to be fair in your trading practices. This is one point I would like to say. Second point, with respect to the quality, I think it is very important, and this I want to mention it to sale marketing general manager. See, I used to import a lot of steel, cold roll anneal steel for my variety of applications in the rockets and missiles and all that. I could never accept the quality of 304 or 304L steel, cold roll anneal steels coming from SAIL. Reason was it has dents, it has scratches, it has marks, and none of my aerospace quality systems will allow that to happen. Now, this is a very important factor. If you are to call, and the same thing if I'm getting from Germany or some other place, I have no problem. It used to come spotless. Now, this is one thing quality-wise. I think we have to do something, even for the kind of observation what Mr. Anand Kumar made, that the stainless steel was also rusted. Now, this is again a problem of quality. If you're not doing proper preservation, if you're not doing treatments which are essential for supplying the market, you have a problem. So quality as well as the cost of inputs, these are the two competing factors you have to work. And also, you need not resort to profiteering. You should be only resorting to profit making. I stop here.
Sir, I'd like to have a comment from Karan sir. Karan sir, what is your view? Then we can have comment from Vijay sir.
I think data that we have examined is that, first of all, there was recently increase in the prices of all metals and all commodities, whether it's aluminum or copper or steel, carbon steel, as well as stainless steel. And therefore, the issue of dumping got confused with the overall price increase which is taking place globally. And the prices are absolutely aligned with the global prices. That is number one. Number two, in tandem, the prices of input material also went up, whether it is scrap or it is ferro-nickel, or what Dr. Saraswat also mentioned, there has been a volatility in the prices. And the prices are determined by both the market factors as well as by the input price increase of the inputs. Now, whenever the CVD was imposed, for example, CVD was imposed in 2017 on China, the price just didn't go up at that time. It was not that whatever prices were prevailing went up by the amount of CVD imposed. The CVD from Indonesia was imposed only as late as September 20, and therefore its impact it got mixed up with the overall steel price increase and also with the overall, the price situation prevailing internationally, and therefore, it was all. When we talk of international price, it is not just Indonesian price. We have to see the prices prevailing at the LME and other sources to arrive at the right conclusion. And our analysis shows that price increase in stainless steel was much, much lower than the rest of the commodities, and also in less than the international prices. So, right, so I think it's our failure to communicate the right situation to the policymakers which has created this impression. As you have rightly said, profits are important, profiteering is not. But, and let me also make one more point. See, I spent better part of my life with the carbon steel industry. I was with Steel Authority of India. And we had a kind of a norm for what the EBITDA margin should be for a steel company. all the carbon steel companies have the EBITDA norm is 20%. EBITDA margin percentage has to be 20% of the turnover. And in good times like now, some companies are making even 25 to 30% of EBITDA margin. When I came to stainless steel industry, I found that the best, largest company and the most biggest company in India was struggling to be with the EBITDA margin of 10% or so. And they were struggling to reach even a double-digit EBITDA margin. So while profiteering, we can assess in so many other ways, EBITDA margin, return of investment, etc., is very, very low in stainless steel as compared to carbon steel. So I think it's not really fair to call it profiteering. The investors also need a decent margin. And this is a much more less profitable industry than carbon steel.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Let's hear the view of Vijay, sir. Vijay, sir.
Sir, I fully agree with Dr. Saab. Profiteering should not be allowed, sir. However, sir, price increase should be related with the cost increase and also the absolute profits, which Mr. Pahuja has explained. Perhaps, sir, industry could not explain the perspective to you adequately. We seek appointment to explain point number one, sir. Point number two, about the quality part. Sir, industry has come a long way, sir. Today, Indian make stainless steel is finding application in all the applications, including nuclear. And you are absolutely right, sir. About a decade or 2 decades back, you are finding all these things in the Indian made stainless steel. But today, the situation is different. That is why we are able to export also. That is why in very, very aesthetically sensitive applications like ABC for the decoratives and including the dairy, Indian stainless steel is going. Sir, this rusty part is a very, very big, grave matter of concern. In fact, sir, anti-corrosion properties are related to the grade and the environment in which a particular grade has to operate in. That is why perhaps in the indoors, a railing of 200 series, 14% chromium could be okay, but outdoor even 304 should be okay, and perhaps on the seashore even 316L would be required. So this needs that industry has to work a little more on educating so that the buyers are able to buy the right grade and having the right properties for a particular environment. Sir, we are working on that, but definitely yes, it needs more focus and more attention and more effort, sir.
We have got a question from Mr. Anant Narayan KR. He is asking, in cookware sector, what are the new developments in usage and stainless steel raw material? Is majority of the material now used for cookware are meeting Indian standards? He's asking, whatever stainless steel we are producing in India, are we meeting Indian standards? For cookware, who would like to answer? Rao sir, you want to take it up? Okay, Vijay sir.
First of all, I would like to appreciate the efforts being done by the Indian government, Steel Ministry, BIS to standardize all these things and upgrade the standards. But about 5-6 years back, when the stainless steel became more prominent and focused product in the stainless, perhaps it started with 25 grades getting included. Perhaps after that, 140 grades got included because it's a journey, it is evolving, it's a process. So if we think that every grade in one go, and there is a limitation of the resources and the testing procedures, there's so many things into it. But government is into the right direction. We should have pride in saying that this is BIS. And of course, yes, some grades might not be today covered in BIS, but ISDA is taking the lead in that, representing the industry. I believe that they are having interface with us also, with Salem also, and the industry is supporting the government to get more and more grades included in it.
Rao sir, your comment.
Coming back to what Saraswat sir told regarding that his experience of stainless steel, he says some few problems faced maybe 2 decades back or 3 decades back. Yes, Vijay Sharma sir rightly said, we come a long way. And in fact, I want to read a small letter we received from LPSC that LPSC has acknowledged without any hesitation that the stainless steel sheets from Salem Steel Plant are better than the international quality and met aerospace requirement, which called for the stringent specifications, superior surface finish, and close tolerance. We are sincerely thank SAIL team for the efforts taken in realizing the superior class T21. This is, yes sir, maybe 2 or 2.5 decades back, there may be some issues, I really acknowledge it, but we've come a long way, sir. there is a lot of improvement in surface quality or chemistry or cleanliness of material and all the parameters. There is a lot of improvement, sir, and we'll strive to improve further in this field, sir.
Sir, Rao sir, I'd like to compliment SAIL Salem on the fact that my mother-in-law, when she got married almost 40-50 years back, she had Salem's cookwares, which she's still using in her kitchen, and these are absolutely of fantastic quality, no rust, no problem at all. So Salem steel is very popular in from generations. So I would like to congratulate SAIL Salem for that.
Thank you.
So we have another question from Mr. Anant Narayan. He's asking, many milk cans in rural areas are still in galvanized carbon steel with steel rivets. This can affect milk quality. Any educational program is on by the ministry to educate users of GI cans to change into stainless steel for milk? Ma'am, you like to comment?
Yes, that's true. It is, again, it's a matter of funding, really. So this is part of the basic infrastructure that we give to the various milk unions. So yes, we do take it up and we do educate on this.
All right. So anyone like to add a point here, or shall we move ahead to the next question? So we have a next question.
I will request Isda, let's work with Madam and try to give a hand. Let's be part of this training program wherever the industry can support the government initiative.
Absolutely.
Yes, we'll connect.
That's it. Yeah, we'll take you up.
So we have one question. Is the iconic structure considered in stainless steel? Is the iconic structure considered in stainless steel? Anyone can answer.
Can I answer this?
Yes, sir.
So the question is, are there iconic structures in stainless steel? Yes, there are many worldwide. And if you talk about structure, I'll give you an example from our own parliament. 20 years back, CPWD made the parliament library, and the dome of the parliament library is fully stainless steel structures, which is a very prominent example of the use of stainless steel structures. And mostly you will see all the sculptures around the city, like the sprouts at Ames, the bean at Chicago, which has become the character of the city. These are all made in stainless steel. Facades, iconic structures. There are many. Frank Gehry, who is a popular architect around the world, and hundreds of such buildings are made in stainless steel, which has a great facade into it. So yes, stainless steel is one of the most popular material for it.
Right. So we have one question from Mr. N.P. Rao. He is asking from Dr. Saraswat, even though it is mandatory to use stainless steel for rail coaches, of late aluminium is also being preferred, and all aluminium coach factory at Titagara is claiming advantage over stainless steel, and there is a strong move to promote aluminium for railway coaches as against stainless steel. We have highlighted this to the stainless steel makers too. We would like to know how this could be countered at the highest level, since aluminium is a direct competitor to stainless steel.
No, I think this competition will continue because of the better strength to weight ratios. Because aluminium gives you the kind of anti-corrosive properties. It also gives you the kind of long life. But the problem is cost. So if you are able to match the cost advantage, then it will be a factor where the stainless steel will take. The weight is a major parameter here, you see, because of the density of aluminium being much lower. So there is a shift. For example, there are applications where aluminium will always find, for example, in the aircraft, you will always have the, most of the aluminium going into it because of the better strength to weight ratios. And but in coaches, wherever there is a weight important, I think more and more people are going to switch over to aluminium, subject to 2 points. One is aluminium is a highly electricity intensive industry. So whether they'll be able to maintain the cost parity with the stainless steel in terms of the per ton weight which is going to be utilized here. Second will be the manufacturability. SS is a much better, easy to manufacture material as compared to aluminium. aluminum manufacturability is a problem. So cost of operating costs become high. So these are the considerations which will dictate the choice ultimately. And I think that competition will have to be done purely on the basis of the merits of the case.
Absolutely. So we have one question from Mr. Deepak Bhatnagar of PMAI. His question is to Mr. Vijay Sharma. So he's asking, what is the long-term strategy for nickel import? Vijay sir.
Unfortunately, India doesn't have nickel in the as a raw material, as a mineral. So India has to depend on international sources. Also,
sir, I think there are two mines also, no? Sukinda and Dukinda.
No, that's not mixed up. When I say nickel is not available so far, nickel is not available so far. Now, and this nickel, wherever it is available, thanks to those governments to keeping their eyes and ears closed towards the pollution being generated by those industries, because to have no pollution, huge investment goes into it. So this is one of the reasons that the nickel being produced in China, Indonesia, Vietnam is creating huge pollution, and they are cheaper. We are thankful to this scrap policy because it will help in structured way of consolidating. Another thing is, since India had a less base of the stainless steel in India relatively, so the availability was scattered. But still, India will have to continue to import scrap, whether it is stainless steel scrap or ferronickel or pure nickel from abroad. This I feel, because we don't have nickel.
One question I have from Mr. Sanjay Saraswat. He is asking one insight into rusting in SS. The trick is to have minimum 12% of CR is, I think, chrome in solution. So manufacturing control is paramount. So he want to have comments on his point.
Stainless by definition means minimum 10.5% chromium. And in addition to chromium, moly is the only element which imparts the corrosion resistant properties. In some areas, when I use the word 316L, it has got 2% moly also. But when we make the vessels for the saline water, even 316L is inadequate. So it is a matter of education, choice of the right, and even in ferritics also, there are grades with having as low as 11% chromium and without moly. So for different applications, there are different grades which are available. But yes, education from the supplier side, from the buyer side, that is a challenge for the overall ecosystem, on which ISDA is working along with us, and we are trying to create that awareness.
We have one very interesting, sir, Dr. Saraswat.
Sir.
To make. You see, it's a very important point that there is a need for us to do application-oriented utilization of the various types and grades of the steel, because there's a tremendous amount of gap as far as the applications are concerned, the users are concerned. They think any stainless steel can be used anywhere and it should provide the necessary protection. It is not so. So there's a requirement for us, both from the ministry side as well as from the industry side, that a major program in terms of standardization with respect to application with the help of BIS, I think should be put up so that we have this knowledge available to all users across. We should start this as early as possible. Otherwise, you will have this kind of a problem, what is being asked today. And we may resort to, even for very easy items which are available in India, we'll say, well, let's import because that quality is better. But it is actually the knowledge of it is a problem, not the quality is a problem. So kindly look at that.
Dr. Saraswat, you know this, I had been also campaigning that steel companies in India really have to come up in advertising and holding knowledge, camps. And I have been really trying to bring steel industry to really come up upfront to market their product in a technical terms, so that the customer is aware. So this I have also faced a challenge. In fact, we have question from the restaurant industry. His name is Mr. Ayanar. He's asking, how far is stainless steel is fuel economical compared to aluminum in cooking? He represents restaurant industry. So Anyone can answer this question. Stainless steel over aluminium in cooking. Rohit sir.
Yeah, see, it is a well-known fact that when you use stainless steel, it is one of the most hygienic material, because what stainless steel has: iron, chromium, nickel, and certain other alloying elements such as manganese and molybdenum. So when you are cooking, you have various kinds of foods into which goes into the utensil, and it is at a boiling temperature. So suppose you are using sambar, you have and if you have curd put into, and then there are various pH it has to encounter, including the salts. So the release of these metals into the food is very harmful. If it has to be in the food, leaching has to happen. So for stainless steel, these leaching doesn't happen, and it is within the safe limits, and it is perfectly fine to use stainless steel. Whereas in aluminium, those leaching of metals into the food is it's very gradual. You cannot see it or estimate it, but for a period of time it goes inside you, and which is carcinogenic also. So my request is that please use stainless steel, right grade of stainless steel for your food applications. It is more and more hygienic.
Just 2-3 questions I will take, and then I would request Rohit ji to conclude the session. This question is from Mr. Pratik Pathak. He is asking this question from Mr. Vijay Sharma. Is JSL planning to manufacture Inconel and Monel grade in stainless steel, as in India no one is manufacturing in full flash?
Today, JSL is making more than 120 grades in all the series, and out of these 120 grades in last 2 decades, we have developed more than 80 grades. So it is a techno-commercial proposition. We have got many capabilities, and we have made many grades. I will suggest we do the hand holding, because it will also be related with certain trials also, some minimum order quantities also, because in stainless steel or steel that matter, there is challenge of the heat size continuous. But we would like to do hand holding to develop it the way we have developed so many grades.
I'm launching one poll question for our audience. Our audience seems to be very, very active in asking questions. So let me also ask question from our audience. Audience, the question is on your screen. Please vote. Is there an export market for Indian stainless steel? Yes, no, not sure. Is there an export market for Indian steel? Please vote very, very quickly, and people watching on YouTube, please comment your answers in the comment section of YouTube. And we have the answers. I'm closing the poll. So 81% of our audience feel that Indian stainless steel does have an export market. That we are producing exportable quality steel, that means, and 12% says not sure, 7% says no. So 81% of our audience are positive that there is an export market for Indian stainless steel. I'm asking one last poll question on your screen. Major hurdles for Indian exporters to explore foreign market. What do you think are the major hurdles? Your options are export of duties leading to high export prices, or quality concerns, or third option is trade embargoes put in place by various countries. Please vote. Major hurdle for Indian exporters to explore foreign markets. Export of duties leading to high export price, or quality concerns, or trade embargoes put in place by various countries. Okay, so we have the results on your screen. 41% feel it is trade embargoes put in place by various countries. I think this is what exactly which we were discussing. Then 33% feels quality concern, and 26% feels export of duties leading to high export price. So the majority goes to trade embargoes placed by various countries. Anyone like to comment on this? This is a very interesting question, and then we will conclude the session.
I will comment on the second one first. Everybody knows now that post USA 23 to Section 23 to 2018, globalization has got shifted toward nationalization. We are capable. We have been exporting. Jindal Stainless has been exporting to more than 60 countries and to the topmost applications and the top to the extent of that snob Germany and France also. So the quality levels are there, but one by one, every country has started the initiation of anti-dumping or CVD blah blah, thanks to our Chinese manufacturers, whether they're based in China or they're based in Indonesia. This has disrupted the total global trade flow. We are capable, we can produce, number one. Number two, when we say that duties are making the exports uncompetitive, well, it is not true, because whatever duties are applicable, if you want to export, you can import duty-free also under advanced license. So for exports, I mean, that option is available. So,
Dr. Saraswat, you have a point?
Yes, I mentioned that there is a regime which has happened in many countries today, which is putting lots of embargoes on the import, and that is export from India. And that is one of the major factors, protective mechanisms which have come in many countries today. And that is responsible for a major impediment in the export. That is one. Second thing is, certainly there is, while I agree with you that Indian stainless steel quality has improved leaps and bounds over the years, but I think even today, for very, very specific applications, like somebody talked of Inconel, somebody talked of a monel metal, you know, some of these and they are required in some of the, like the aerospace industry or process industries and all that. And they will capture much more value to you. I'm telling you, the margins which you will get, although the volume of production will be low, but the margins you will get on the competitive pricing basis, you can make up for that. I think we should look at that segment in a very careful manner and plan for the export of that.
Now, I would like to request Rohit ji to please conclude the session.
Yes. Once again, now it is good evening to respected VK Saraswat ji, Varsha Joshi ma'am, Anand Kumar sir, and other dignitaries and participants. In today's deliberation, we have covered wide range of topics from policies, views from both producers and end users, and to see how we can achieve a sustainable growth in present as well as in future. As the theme of the webinar was, are we ready for the next growth cycle? This has been covered very well by various speakers, and they have provided some very interesting inputs and way forward for stainless steel industry. So I would quickly, since there is a limited time, so I'd quickly like to summarize all the points. And while doing so, I will also answer to some of the concerns raised by the panel. So I have divided into three parts, like it was discussed: stainless steel demand outlook. The year before pandemic struck, stainless steel was growing at a healthy pace, overall 7 to 8%.
Sorry to interrupt, I may have to leave, yes, if you don't mind. So,
Dr. Saraswat, no issues, sir. No issues, and thank you so much for staying with us for more than 1.5 hours. Thank you so much.
Well, I've got another call coming in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Rohit sir, please continue.
Okay, so I continue. So before pandemic, we were growing at 7 to 8%. More than the production, our consumption was also growing at a very fast pace. So traditionally, areas of end use covered by many speakers like ABC, ART, metal goods sector are likely to go further as considered with the economic growth. However, I would like to highlight a little more on few new areas of uses which has been very briefly touched upon or missed when stainless steel growth has to be taken up. One of the most important factor right now is stainless steel usage in structural applications. So when I say structural, consider a foot over bridge or a bridge made in steel. Recently in Mumbai, you saw some of the bridges being collapsing because of the corrosion issues. So railways has taken this dynamic step to use stainless steel for some of the foot bridges all over the country, and for that they have gone with lean ferritics with higher strength. And I think this is the way forward for structural usage in the country, and more stainless steel should be used for such applications, because it also helps to save massive revenue losses due to corrosion, as well as safety and painting is also not much of the concern. Stainless steel reinforcement bars, many of you must have heard about reinforcement bars of steel but because of that, corrosion happening and spalling of concrete happening, and structures are failing over its use of 20-30 years only. So stainless steel reinforcement bar, as Anand sir was saying, that a standard was needed to be made. So in 2017 ending, BIS came up with a standard 16651 on stainless steel reinforcement bars. And sir, I am happy to tell you, sir, since when you were there, I met you and you recommended it to be added into DSR. And the progress has been happening over last 1.5 years. And recently I had a meeting with CPWD, and they have prepared the DSR, and it is put for approval for stainless steel reinforcement bar, where cost-effective stainless steel reinforcement bars are also under discussion. So that is a major growth area which has already happened with Indian Railways, and now NHAI has also come up with a circular saying that any construction happening within 15 kilometers from the seashore should use stainless steel as a material for reinforcement for longer life and maintenance free and saving material during design itself. Other areas such as water tanks discussed by so many of the panelists. Harmful effects of plastics are well known. There were issues of hygiene and health regarding that. So a lot of education has to be given regarding that. Also, we are working towards that. We will come up with some case studies how stainless steel water tanks is useful. Plumbing, as rightly said by again Anand sir, that plumbing has to be in stainless steel. Some of the prime buildings used by CPWD is already using CSS plumbing, but I'll request more and more uses of stainless steel plumbing in the country. The second part of the discussion was on the initial cost of the stainless steel, where I would like to put a different perspective: life cycle costing analysis for sustainable growth and long-lasting growth. Today, importance of life cycle costing has been well understood by the decision makers all over the world, deliberated right now, and stainless steel are finding its usefulness in many areas of infrastructure, building, transportation, industrial as well. Premature failures of these structures or projects, huge cost of corrosion maintenance has been discussed, and even more important, it is now even more important that we do the life cycle costing calculation during the concept stage itself, when the project is being envisaged. In many areas of stainless steel, is not able to find its rightful place because of the fear and lack of information regarding higher initial costs, without realizing that by calculation you can understand that it is a cheaper alternative considering the life cycle of that project or product you are trying to design. So to help that, ISDA has as an association, our primary job is to educate people. So we are going to create a life cycle costing calculating tool, and that tool will not be just a general tool to calculate any kind of life cycle costing, but it will be product based. So if you have to select water tank, if you have to select a foot over bridge, so we'll provide all the options to go specific to the product, and then help the decision makers to design the project based on initial cost of the material as well as life cycle costing. So this one step we are taking to help the industry to take it forward. Now the third part where I would like to conclude is the synergy between production and demand. Let me tell you, for a sustainable and long-term growth vision, it is important to realize that we become Atmanirbhar and do make in India as much as possible. Total value chain from the raw material production to intermediary production, fabrication and production making units need to be in line with the demand requirements, meet the challenges of new product application. It has also been pointed out that industry, to meet global as well as domestic challenges, a level playing field has to be created. Made in India to local for vocal should be the mantra, but to sustain this domestic industry has to be made competitive, and threats from cheap and standard dumping needs to be countered. Truly, growth can only be envisaged if we use made in India material, and to make India and also to make made in India products from those made in India material. So this requires a total synergy between material producer and the end product. So in the end, to conclude, I would like to summarize, and also there is one more concern raised by Anand sir from CPWD, that a lot of other materials has to be incorporated into DSR, like say for tower bolts, gratings, stoppers and so many. Sir, we are working towards that. We have earlier under your leadership, we were able to add stainless steel plumbing into the DSR. Now rebar is also going to come. Similarly, we are going to add water tanks and so many products which you have already told. We are working toward that, and we feel that in a time of just 1 year, we'll be able to add all those into DSR. Yes, sir. So in the end, I would like to once again summarize by saying that ISDA, Indian Stainless Steel Development Association, is committed to provide authentic knowledge and technical solution for the growth of stainless steel market in the country, and look forward to work together to achieve this common goal of making India the Vishwa Guru in times to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rohitji. With this, I would like to end the session. And with this, I would like to thank Dr. V.K. Saraswat and Ms. Varsha Joshi for being with us, for staying with us for more than 1.5 hours. And our expert panelist, I'll start with Mr. Karan Pahuja, President of ISDA, then Mr. Anant Kumar, Special DG CPWD, Mr. Vijay Sharma, Director, Jindal Stainless Steel Limited, Mr. S.N.M. Rao, CGM Marketing, Steel Authority of India from Salem, and Mr. Rohit Kumar, Executive Director from ISDA. I would like to thank our sponsor, Jindal Stainless Steel Limited, and association support from ISDA for making this program happen. And with this, I would also like to thank our lovely audience who never fail to make any session interesting by putting up great questions. Viewers, a recorded version of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel in next 30 minutes. Also, I would like to remind you once again that Metallogic is coming up with a new portal, mymetallogic.com. So the report of this webinar will be available after 10 days on our new portal. Do not miss to subscribe. The subscription fee is only 500 rupees per month basis, and you can access to all the information, interviews, and reports. With this, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.